we've seen a little bit of a seismic shift in broadcasting opportunities. We've seen this week Queensberry going with DAZN. Isn't that an app, Frank? Apparently not. What do you think to that? It's an interesting... I mean, Frank's had a reaction to something I said yesterday. I think sometimes these guys just don't listen. I think it's quite an interesting thing. I think DAZN are getting bigger and better and stronger. The fact they're losing $1 billion a year might not be helpful, but the guy that's bankrolling them has got plenty of money. What do you think of Queensberry and Matchroom being... You've got other fighters that have left Matchroom, right, because they didn't like DAZN. Josh Boazzi went with Sky and with Ben Shalom because he figured that there was a better opportunity. And we've seen other environments, Lawrence Okoli was the same, wasn't he?
Sure.
And now you've got Frank and Queensberry landing in the same space that Matchroom are in, which is a broadcaster.
Yeah.
And it potentially brings up arguments about, do you get a monopoly? I don't particularly have that problem with it. What do you think of them landing?
I sort of understand where it's going, and I think that was always going to be the case with the investment in Saudi Arabia, Turkey Al Sheikh. He's now part owner of DAZN as well now, and I think that that's where he's looking to put the promoters, and that's where the promoters are going and getting it all under one umbrella and making, the best versus the best.
If you were in a stable that had Sky, TNT or DAZN, would the broadcaster have made a difference to you when you were choosing which promoter you wanted to be with?
Okay, assuming I'm a fighter coming out of, let's say, the Olympics, and I've got a huge back end, and I want everyone to see me, I'd choose Sky or TNT just because you go with Sky, they got Sky Sports News. I mean, that reaches everywhere, and then you got second behind at a time with BT, now TNT. And then you got DAZN coming through and you're thinking, OK, I don't really want to box on DAZN. Who's going to watch it unless you're a hardcore boxing fan? But I think the way DAZN's moving now, it's changed. I've heard they've got, an actual channel on Sky TV and stuff like that. So
Indeed.
I guess they're trying to grow it. But
I think they're just trying to put it all under one umbrella, right?
Yeah, they're trying to put it under one umbrella. But I think fighters will essentially go where they're being paid more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. I mean, I think it's an interesting opportunity. I mean, I don't think TNT is a natural home for boxing. I didn't think BT Sport was the greatest place, and Frank will probably disagree with me, and again, remind me of how little I know in comparison with what he does. The fact he's 107, he should know more than me. But the point is I don't look at it as anything other than I think Queensberry are smart.
Yeah.
I think George Warren is as smart as paint. I mean, Frank said this on one of the shows earlier on that I get everything wrong, so I said you were the best promoter, Frank, and I said George was the smartest CEO. Have I got that wrong? Or are you happy with that? Maybe you are. But I think DAZN is a decent space. I think it's the more broadcasters that are out there, the more they're creating interest in boxing. And the way that we watch and consume sport now, we stream, we watch it from devices. I think it's an interesting development.
Well, we can see the vision, can't we? Like, we're getting all the promoters. If what the goal is to get all the promoters under that one umbrella, we get what Turkey Al Sheikh has been talking about.
The only thing I'd say about that, Spence,
best fighting best, and that's.
Well, that doesn't.
Surely the fans are the winners, though.
And that's agreed. If the broadcasting, but there hasn't been a problem recently. No. You've been able to have all the broadcasters being able to show the content, right? So the argument hasn't been there because the promoters haven't gone, well, I've got to have it shown on my platform. I've got to have it shown on my platform.
But there's a financial investment now in that platform, hence why the.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if the Saudis have bought into DAZN. I anticipate that at some point they might actually buy it as a viable method of delivering sports. My only concern, if I've got a concern, is that if you have only one place to watch something, then whilst that's great if you'll be able to deliver fights as a result of it, if it becomes a non-competitive environment, then price points can be determined by the one place that you watch it. If you can only watch it one place, then at some point they can determine what that price is, and you have to get on with it. Albeit, I think currently the bigger advantage is that all the fights are being made, and if DAZN are carrying a lot of the content, I don't think it'll exclude Sky. It'd be interesting to see what Sky do in the future and whether they continue to be as big on boxing, but we'll see.
I think the Sky may end up being that pay-per-view model. They'll take the pay-per-view model fights. That's possibly where it'll go because that's where financially it works for them. But yeah, it's interesting to see what the next 24 months or so, how it's going to turn out.
The world had a debate about Iman Khalaf and the identification of her. I'm going to say her. It's not her. This sports person as a female athlete, when most sensible observers knew that this was a biological male.
Not most of them.
Yeah, they did.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did.
I was out there, mate, at that time. Yes, you did. All right?
Most sensible
You did.
observers.
Yeah,
Most sensible observers.
No, you did, right? But take you out of the equation. We was out there and, you know, with the IOC, who completely up in this instance, by the way, and allowed this to go ahead because it allowed people like myself to say, well, listen, if Iman Khalif was born a female and she, you know, all right, her levels are above where they should be, and you know,
it's a very difficult
testosterone of a male, but effectively she's born a female. That was the argument. But now this, now this more recent evidence has appeared. With the, you know,
but we all know,
and
Denzel, that the Olympic
inside testicles.
We don't want to get to that.
Yeah, no, but you know
what we
what
do
I'm
know
saying?
is that
what I'm saying is that's my argument. Now there's new evidence appeared. You go, well, it was totally wrong that they were competing in the Olympics.
But the reasons why the new evidence appears is because the IOC selection process is what you put on your passport is what will determine that you are. So if you decide that you're going to put a dog on your passport, the IOC would have you jumping in the dog category.
But is it legal to put that you're a female on there if you're a male?
Self-identification. That's what IOC have denoted. In this society that we live in, there are certain countries that allow you to self-identify.
So I can go change my passport and put that on my female on it?
In certain countries you can.
Really?
I'm not entirely sure about self-identification in this country. There's a few things you could identify as. There's a few things you could identify as, Spence. But the bigger question is not about the reality of what was right, who was right and wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Because to me it was evident, the medical evidence, the IBA were being discredited because they were Russian-based and all this sort of stuff. But the bigger question is that there was an argument being raised about this athlete being able to compete in professional boxing. Now that we've established, and I do feel sorry for this athlete because I would suspect there's some real challenges in this person's life, whether it's about DSD, whether it's about the symptoms that go with the life that this person has had.
Yeah, the psychological
But we now have to
well.
accept, and I think we are all reasonable to accept this, that this athlete cannot turn professional in female boxing.
All joking aside, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think that, you know, the criteria just doesn't fit. And unfortunately for Iman Khalif, you know, and the issues surrounding what's going on in her life at the moment, she can't compete as a professional female athlete in boxing. No way. No way. It's not possible. With the new evidence that's come to the surface, this shouldn't be allowed.
I don't think that person should be able to compete as an amateur either, not just professional boxing. I mean,
correct.
This issue should have been tackled before they entered the Olympics. And it wasn't. So now we have this whole, you know, whirlwind or whatever going on, and this person has to deal with that mentally when they're in their house with their family. Like, if this was tackled before, it wouldn't be a worldwide issue like this.
That's when we was out there, and we was, you know, we was on the ground out there in France at the Olympics. You're there, and just the whole confusion surrounding this athlete was insane. Is she? Isn't he? And it was very. I mean, should she be competing? Shouldn't he not be competing? It was like nothing was clear, and you go, how does it get to that stage, Simon?
But it was very clear. It was very clear. What people?
No, I'm saying out there it wasn't. No one.
But then
we live in a world where you have to tread very.
You must have been in a bubble then, Spence, because it was very clear.
Misinformation. The Simon. You live in a world. The IBA said you've got to tread very carefully in situations like that.
You only have to tread carefully if you're not abreast of what you're saying. The bottom line is the IBA said that this person tested with XY chromosome, end of discussion. The IOC said, we don't care what you test for, we only care what's on your passport. That was the only conversation. The rest of it was academic, and so it's proven to be the case. Where do you think it leaves boxing for the Olympics? Because we've had bad judging, we've got corruption allegations, and now we've got this situation where, to some extent, just outside the sporting world, the world was up at arms. Piers Morgan's written an article in the New York Post about this specific subject and how outrageous it was. What does it do to Olympic boxing?
It's such a shame because of the history of Olympic boxing and you know, and with the Olympics not having boxing as part of their games would be tragic. But it leaves it like hanging in the balance at the moment, hanging by a shoestring because of the corruption that's been going on in there for years. Different governing bodies that have been running it, new committees coming in, old ones going out, new ones being as bad as the old ones. We've got a new committee in there again, and you just don't know where it is.
Do you think it should be taken off the roster for the Olympics?
Well, I just struggle with that because of my love for for boxing and with my passion for boxing within the Olympics. So when you're saying should it be taken out, I go, absolutely not, because I'm a boxing fan. But it needs to be fixed, and how do we fix that? I think that's the question.
And that is the question. If it can't be fixed, and if they take it out, I won't be mad at that. What it's done for, young people coming through, from different sorts of backgrounds all over the place, where it's got them in their careers, even some of them that don't turn professional, just achieving an Olympic medal is a massive achievement for these people. So I think for that instance, it should stay in. But if you can't fix the problems that are going on, and like you said, the history of Olympic boxing, what it is, right now, this is destroying the history of Olympic boxing. When you look at boxing, you think...
the legacy.
The legacy, you just think corruption. So
And
it's like, I'd rather it just not be there than for it to be ruined.
Interestingly, you speak to the kids that are coming through the system now, through the amateur system and whatnot, and they're never as bothered now. Where it used to be when, I don't know if it was maybe in your time, but definitely in my time, the dream was to go to the Olympics. You have a dream to go to the Olympics or a dream to win a world title. That was where it's sort of at now. The kids don't really give a for it now because of the corruption that has happened in recent times. Michael Connelly comes to mind, getting robbed in the way that he got robbed. Roy Jones, who I was with last week, that silver medal that he received that then, that was way back when. That's how long it's been going on. I mean, he should have been an Olympic gold medalist. You can't change the colour of that medal. And I think that with the corruption that surrounds it now, it's destroyed it. And I don't think the kids really give a about it like they used to.
Yeah, and neither do, as we say, casual fans. They look at Olympic boxing and think, it's all corrupt anyway. And this, when they watch professional boxing, people ask questions like, was that fixed, or do you think this was set up, and things like that. And it's like, that's not the course of boxing. It's a fight. It's meant to be a fair fight, and it's meant to be fair judging if you don't get knocked out. But the way the Olympic boxing is going, I think it's ruining its own legacy, and I think it could harm professionals boxing.
Well,
in
absolutely.
the future.
If you look at the legacy of people that have come through the boxing, if you look at Ali or Cassius Clay as he was, winning the Olympic gold in light heavy, you look at George Foreman and people that have gone on to have illustrious careers. The last thing you want the Olympics to do is to be giving boxing a bad whiff. It should be the other way around.
The Olympics really creates the stars, doesn't it? It gives them such a springboard. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, some kids come through the system where they go through the small hall shows and they get that respect that way, and they're a bit of a character, and so they build their profile that way. But the Olympics, winning the Olympics, is something very prestigious about that. And that Olympic gold medal, historically, was 100%. The names that you just mentioned.
Well,
Simon.
Let's see what they do.